Thanks for tuning in, everybody. This is the Bike Room. We're going to be looking at the highs and lows of 2020. Just starting off here, we're on the Penheath Trail. This is where we started the journey back in January 2020. And as you can see, everything was normal. There was no new normal, it was the old normal, the normal. Great thing was, everything was as it should have been. Wet, muddy, just winter, you know, that normal thing that happens every year to us when everything gets muddy. This is my expedition solo ride up onto the Craig Irach mountain, which is just opposite Garth mountain. You've got the A470 running in between the two. It was really cold that day. I think it was like -2. But I braved it. There's Garth mountain there, look. That's Caerphilly and on the way to Pontypridd. But yeah, I'd never been up to this mountain before. It was great. Had a few issues with the bike. Back at the beginning of February, took my bike into treads. Had an issue with the Eagle drivetrain. So they had a look at it. Gave me a decent diagnosis on what was needed. So thanks to their help. Thank you, treads. That's where my rock mountain altitude came from. Yeah, so I had to push the thing back home because drivetrain was gone. So we had Storm Ciara, a bit of a low point, lots of debris on the trails. This is me just clearing up our local trails after that particular storm. As you can see, quite a few trees down. But, you know, it's one of those things you got to do to keep the trails running, and dragging a tree across the trail isn't the end, is it? So we were then picking up pieces after another storm. It was just called Storm George, I think. And this is when things started to sort of get a little bit negative as far as this thing called the virus. I think I first heard about it in the news around this time. Things were still okay. I was still in work. I was still attending courses, doing videos and out riding, as if we didn't even know about the lockdown. But we obviously were picking up some news, some information about there being a virus in Wuhan, and in fact we knew people that were in China at the time, not in Wuhan, but you know, we were cracking on. I went on a bike maintenance course, and this was just at the beginning of March, I believe, or around early part of March. So that was great to do that course. Unfortunately, things then started to take this sort of lockdown measure, and that's when lockdown sort of began. This is really the last ride I did before, one of the last rides I did before lockdown, up on Ewell Trail, Afan. This was actually around the time of the Wales v England match. As you can see, I'm over in Porthcawl here with the wife. She came along with me on this ride, and we had some fish and chips on Finnegan's Chip Shop in Porthcawl. Again, not locked down at this point, but aware that there's something going on. This was actually the last ride I did before lockdown. It was with my daughter Rhiannon, and we went up to Glencorrwg. We were aware that there was a lockdown going to be brought into place, and this was the very last ride before the lockdown came in. Quite a nice, sunny, cold, windy day, typical for that time of year in Wales. Not that many people up there, and this was lockdown. This is me acting up as the Tai Chi instructor, that I obviously am not, and the well-known rock guitarist. Just trying to find other things to do than mountain biking. This is when we turned to that horrible thing called Zwift and set up the Zwift trainer. Oh, that wasn't me at all. that was not me. I found it so boring looking at a little screen. I couldn't get Zwift to work on my laptop, so I went back out on the mud. That's what you do. So this is me just riding on the local trails, right on my backyard. And as you can see, it was nice and dry now. It actually was very, very dry over the spring. Yeah, we happen to see a lot of these around. This new sort of sighting. People actually exploring their local trails as if they'd never explored them before, which was probably the case. Wherever we rode during spring, there were people walking dogs or riding bikes without helmets, or just sitting around. So yeah, time to take my hand to a bit of bike maintenance, and this was my home attempt at sorting out the brakes that needed bleeding. There were moments of boredom, and this led to some crazy antics, like putting the GoPro on top of a large pole. Even the wife decided to come out for a ride. I mean, this is unprecedented. Fair dues. I don't know if she enjoyed it, but she gave it a good go. Just shows what people decide to do when there's a lockdown. And my daughter, I think this is the last ride she did with me, which was back in April. We did a local ride, and this is when the trails were dry and running so fast. Unfortunately, we ended up in a field full of bulls. This is me now, just getting back out, enjoying the local trails, and not letting anything stand in my way. I mean, I'm working from home. The days are dripping away, and we're now into months having dripped away since the first lockdown. So I'm making full use of the 2 times a day that we're allowed to go out and exercise. So even going out into the city and exploring what's around there, it just helped to eat into that time. But we had to ride from the door of our homes, so this meant pulling some big epics out of the bag, like this one here, where I rode up from Cardiff up to Hensall Forest and back. That was quite a length ride. Yeah, not a massive amount of mountain biking up there, but just good for the exploration really, and just getting out, getting away from the house, getting away from the laptop and work, and just enjoying the freedom. Obviously it was great when that first lockdown was lifted, and here I am. First trail that I rode when that happened was the Wall Trail at Avant, and honestly it felt so good just to be back out, free, being able to choose to ride trails that might need a bit of a car journey to get up there. I mean, it's only 40 minutes in the car from where I live, but yeah, that was a great day, that feeling of freedom. And you know what, I thought that was the end of it. I thought that was the end of lockdown. So I thought, we've done it, we're on the home straight. I went up, couldn't resist a trip up to Cwmcarn, did the Twrch Trail, did that quite a few times to be fair, and you know, definitely worth it. This was the Cafal Trail, did that whole trail right from the bottom, all the technical climbing as well. I was so enthusiastic, that, you know, just that feeling of freedom again, and pulling everything out of the bag, all that energy, all that pent up energy that I've been feeling over that period of time. Honestly, I felt like I was 20 again. You know, just really enjoying that feel. I felt a little bit rusty on the bike, to be fair. It's like some of those skills just left me for a bit. This is when I went up to Blade Trail. I had to go up there twice actually, because the first time my crank arm fell off just before doing the Heartburn descent. But this is me going back up there again and having a really good ride. It was a great day. It was warm, and met up with a few other riders up there. This is back at Cwmcarn. Look at those views, you know, that's freedom, isn't it? This is back over at the wall at Afan, just after Storm Francis, day after Storm Francis. Some big trees had come down, but just enjoying that exhilaration on some proper trails. Yeah, there's signs of this coronavirus wherever you look. You get the 2 metre distance signs, but everything was open and running. This is Penheath. Went up there with my friend Mark and my son Sam, and we had a great ride up there. Unfortunately, I did rip my my rear mech off on that ride. Then we were back into this local lockdown, so we had to ride again from our homes. So this is when me and my son rode up to Tinnacoid, which is within the boundary of Cardiff, and there's some very sketchy downhill trails. I think this was around sort of end of October time. So yeah, we're locked back in. Unfortunately, we're only allowed to stay within the confines of our area, which was a bit of a pain, to be quite honest. But you know, certainly opened up doors. You know, the last time we went to Tinnacoid was back in 2013, so it was great to ride this with a fresh sort of perspective. You know, back in 2013 we didn't have the right bikes. Now we've got the right sort of bikes for this type of trail, so it was really good to ride that. And me and my son certainly had a few spills, but you know, all in all, it was a good, safe ride. It wasn't too muddy on the day. A friend of mine, Mark, and my son Sam, we decided to again stay within the Cardiff area because that was the rules, and we went over to Mountain View Bike Park and we rode some of the sketchiest trails, mainly because they are pretty narrow. This is where I nearly went over the bars, hitting a tree stump, but very good fun. But then added on to this is the fact that at Envy Bike Park, you know, these aren't freshly built trails, but you do have a good selection of other trails as well. There's a flat section at the top with some sort of North Shore bits, nothing too technical. There's also a nice little sort of pump track. In fact, I think they've got 2 pump tracks, one smaller one for the younger children, and then the larger pump track. But then you've also got the section that we all really enjoyed ourselves on the most on that particular day, was the jump lines, the red and the black jump lines. I stuck with the red jump line. It was pretty windy. There was a lot of crosswinds on that day, and we were being pushed from the left side of the track to the right side when you're in the air. It's pretty scary. We watched one chappie do the black line, and he took a spill trying to do the hip jump, and that kind of secured it for us that we would stick with the red. I'm glad we did, but definitely going back up there in 2021. Then we were relieved from the local lockdown. We were allowed out again, so we went back up to Afan, and as you can see, we're maintaining social distance from each other. There's not that many people up there, and this is Jack showing his wheeling skills. Wheelied through a gate there. I can't even push my handlebars through it. And we're back up on the Wall Trail. This is the section called Tramway. Nice little drop there. And these are the boys, that's Sam, my son, Jack, and then Mark doing the drop there. So we had a great day on that trail. We went up and did the Blade Trail. It was a pretty foggy day. The climbing up there is quite substantial amount of climbing, and it turns out to be about a 35 kilometre loop, this one, so you need good set of legs. It's also really more designed for your full suspension bike. You can see the amount of rock there. I certainly wouldn't ride the Blade Trail on a hardtail. You know, it's one of those trails. I've had a few over the bars on it in the past. I entered the Welsh Gravity Enduro Series back in 2018, which used this particular section, the rock, as one of its actual stages, and it's quite a tasty bit of trail. This is back at Glyn Corrug Cafe, Corrug Cwtch, for some cake and tea. And then the snow fell in December, and we went up and enjoyed a ride up at Cwmcarn in the snow. It wasn't heavy snow, but it was nice to actually see and smell the snow. You know, I mean, it felt really good riding in that environment. And just ripping down on this new particular section of Castle Valley, which has been formed into berms and rollers, so really fast and fun. I really enjoyed that. Just coming down up the last straight of the trail on the Twch trail, that is. Then Mark, myself and my son Sam, we went up and did the Cafal trail in December. This was a great highlight of the riding that we did. We all had great fun. Can be pretty sketchy in the wet, as it was that day. It was fairly wet. And then we went back up and did the Twch trail the week after. And this is us, all the snow's gone now, so temperature was up a bit. Unfortunately, Mark had an issue with his rear wheel was rubbing on his frame, and Sam has had issues with his fork. PS Cycles in Cwmcarn are trying to sort it out. This is me just giving that bit of that skinny North Shore a go. Celebrate. In fact, I managed to clear 90% of it. Just ripping back down on the Pucca trail, I think that's how you pronounce it. The Pucca trail is the new trail that was built back I think it was completed around March this year, 2020, by Arca Trail, and it's a really good bit of fun. That this is just back on the local trails because we're back in lockdown again. Yep, we're not allowed to leave the area. We've got to ride from the home, and this is us going for a ride. This is day after Boxing Day, I think it was, and yeah, we've got some flooding, and we had to turn back on this one. We couldn't ride over that. There's a level crossing just ahead there. Some of the things had been disrupted further up the valleys. So yeah, we're climbing our way back up to a better year, hopefully. So always end on a climb, and then let's hope that we've got plenty of descents coming in 2021. So thanks to all the subscribers, old and new, and all for the meaningful comments and questions that you give us. You know, without you, there would be no Bike Room. Have a good new year.